of my energy, and to give them 70 doesn't seem fair. Okay, I'm going to let Tim in. I'm going to mute everybody, or actually I'll leave you unmuted and then I'll mute. Welcome, Tim. So good to see you.
Hello, you happy people.
Hello. We have a couple more people joining, and they may be, and I so appreciate you being willing to let us open this up. I think I told, so we have a yoga studio, which I think I told you when we met back, gosh, when was that? It seems like ages ago. And we have opened up these special guest series and let people jump in and experience them. So it's been great fun.
Nice. So I'm going to move that chair because I had somebody sitting there earlier, and then do one other thing.
Okay.
And we start live when?
We are going to record it, and then we will do a little editing and then do it versus just Facebook Live.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So I just muted you all, and if you have questions, feel free. You can always put them in the chat. That's probably the best way to pop those in there. And we will begin in just a moment here. All righty. There we go. Okay, and did you know too that we had your friend Amy Van Slambrook come join us too?
Oh, she's fantastic.
She is. So it was super fun. She gave some great input just about trauma and these times.
Yes, she's very, very good with that subject and many others.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and begin. It is a pleasure. It's an honor to have you here. And I appreciate you just for who you are and for your willingness to make time for this. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
I have to say, when we first met, you were talking about growing up in Compton and, you know, the parts of LA. And my dad grew up in Lincoln Heights and Boyle Heights. And so I felt this connection
Yes.
immediately to you. So
we would have been neighbors.
Yes, for sure. Tell us a little bit, Tim, if you can, about your background. You've got such a beautiful backstory, but how you grew up, and I think that shapes so much of who you are.
Yeah, I think that, you know, predominantly my childhood was very happy. I am innately optimistic. I see things a lot through the eyes of humor. I loved comedians ever since I was a kid. Back in the days, you know, you had the big albums, and there were various comedians that were big at that time. And I would listen to those albums over and over again. So I saw a lot of life through comedy. So even though we were lower income, 7 people in a 2-bedroom apartment to start with, it's interesting, guys, because I didn't really see us that way. I just saw that it was cramped, but I was always thinking big in small places. So, you know, raised in a lower income family, father was a steel worker, 10th grade education, mother 6th grade education, worked at a place called Winchell's Donut Shop. Have any of you ever been to a Winchell's? Please lift your hands.
Yes.
And so we used to get the day-old donuts. We had to wait till they were a day old, and then my mother would bring some home. So yeah, that's how it started. But I think that worked for me because I had a drive to do better. That's the genesis of Tim Storey.
So when did you know you were destined for greatness?
I knew I was destined for goodness. I knew I was destined for at least goodness when different people started to see that I had something to me. My sixth grade teacher, Mr. Probert, asked me to stay after class. And he says, Timmy, I want to tell you that I think you are, and I didn't know what he was going to say. And then he said, I think you are brilliant. And because you're brilliant, I want to see if you want to read some books from my personal library. And one of the books was a book written by Irving Stone about the life of Michelangelo. Little did I know, some 30 years later, I would meet the wife of Irving Stone, Jean Stone, who's now in heaven, and tell her this story and bring her to tears. Because by reading that book as a 10-year-old, it just made my mind just go boom of what this Michelangelo guy did. And so I feel like I had a lot of very positive instructors who built me up, anywhere from my school teacher to my coaches in sports.
That's beautiful. It's amazing that, that you were receptive to it and open, and that you had those people that believed in you, those believing mirrors to elevate you and to really call forth the goodness inside. You talk a lot about a God idea versus a good idea. I read your book. I loved it. And how can you tell the difference if it's something of you versus something of God?
It's not easy at first because I think, number one, we're made in the image of God. And so because we're made in the image of God, I think within us, we are creators because God is a creator. So we're creators. And that's why you see little children, you can leave them on their own for a while and they are already playing, I'm a princess, or a little boy, I'm a fireman, I'm a policeman. And they're playing games because made in his image, we're creators. But I think that it's very important for us to be put in the right environment where we can allow ourselves to soar. And I find in my studies that a lot of people do not soar because the ceiling in their household or the ceiling in their relationships are too low. And they don't allow them to go beyond the ceiling. And so that's very, very, very important that we let the creativity rise in all of us. And so we learn three primary ways: education, observation, and conversation. And through education, I have learned. Through observation of even watching all of you on the screen, I'm staring at all of you. I see what's going on. Observation, but also conversation can change your life. One conversation can change your life forever.
For good or for bad, I think. When I was growing up, I had a neighbor. I was the kid that wanted to have the popsicle stick houses, and I was convinced it was going to be this huge endeavor and we were going to make millions and neighborhood carnivals and everything under the sun. But one of my neighbors said, oh, Leanne and her big ideas. And so no longer was it okay for me to have my big ideas, and the ceiling was lowered.
Yeah, 100%. So, but that's why it's important to have more than one conversation. So if I was you, I would have said, hey, so-and-so said this. Hey, Carmen, what do you think?
I think I was like 9. Thankfully, I did have more conversations, and my crazy ideas continue now, as these guys can all attest to. What would you say? A lot of people, I work with people in the heart-based entrepreneurial space primarily. And a lot of them, as soon as that doubt comes up, they question, is this the thing to do? Even right now, in the light of this interesting situation we all find ourselves in, people are doubting. And what I'm finding is people are just throwing the towel in.
Mhm.
What would you say?
Well, I would say that we have to truly understand what life is about and that life is seasonal, just as in many parts of the nation, not all, but there's a winter that feels like winter because in LA it doesn't really feel like winter. But there's a winter, there's a spring, there's a summer, and there's a fall, and that's how life is. And the great writer of Ecclesiastes says there's a time and a season for everything. There's a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak. COVID-19 is simply a life interruption like we've never seen before. Usually we'll see an earthquake in a certain part of the world, a hurricane, a tornado that takes place, 9/11. So those are usually found in locations. COVID-19 is the first of its kind to literally hit every corner of this thing called the planet. And so it's a life interruption. But those of us that are all watching at one time, we have to be mature enough to realize that life interruptions are going to come. And it could be you having a test done and finding you have cancer. Or as a child, people get molested. Or people get divorced. Never thought that would happen. And so COVID-19 is just a bigger version of a life interruption that's touched a lot of people. But I do believe that it is innate. It is inside of us to handle these things. Because there's a scripture in the Bible that says that God's people are like a palm tree. And in my research about the palm tree is a palm tree can go as far as 30 feet deep into the ground. The other thing is that in its trunk, it has built-in elasticity. So watch how powerful this is. You bend, 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 bounce. Bend, 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 bounce. So to all of you that are there watching me, and then all of you that are listening to us, hey, how many times did we think we were going to break for good, but we were bending, 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 bouncing back. So the bounce back is in you. You run deeper than you thought. And no matter what you're going through, I believe that you'll find a way through it.
You tell a story about bounce, and you talk about how you used to play a lot of basketball, and you talk about how people sometimes lose their bounce. And it's like trying to bounce a partially flat basketball.
I like that you did your research on my basketball illustration. Yeah, so I remember one time you were all excited, we're kids. So I was like 9. And one of the kids, Mikey Gibson, said, "Timmy, do you have a basketball?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Because mine's flat." So I went into the garage, into the area where we had this nice bin, because everything was organized at my house. And I got the basketball. It felt full. But when we got to the court and I went to take my first dribble, it was semi full and just kind of went not a complete plop, but it was not a high bounce. And I think if you're not careful, life can knock the bounce out of all of us. And so that's why it's so important that we have self-care, that we feed our faith and starve our doubts, that we strengthen ourselves so that when the challenges of life hit, that we are filled with the air and the oxygen so we maintain our balance.
It seems like pre-COVID-19, a lot of people maybe lost their bounce. A lot of people that were around our, 40s, 50s their kids start to grow up. They have this epiphany like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? What's the rest of my life? So in this 8-week pause, they've kind of reconnected to themselves, to something bigger than themselves, implemented some good habits. But I heard from one of our clients going back to work, and Tennessee just started to open back up this week and the end of last week. They're hitting up against that resistance again because they're going back into something that no longer fits.
Yes. So the reality is that in order to do well in life, we have to have internal motivation. So I have notes on motivation. That means inspiration, stimulation, enthusiasm. But I like these two: drive and initiative. What most people have is inspiration that's kind of on the outside, that lasts so long, and then it begins to leak out of them. But when somebody has internal motivation, stimulation, enthusiasm, drive, and initiative, it's hard to shake that out of them. So it's very important to realize that in the midst of life, there's two things you have to have. And number one, that's a healthy soul. A healthy soul, that you have to guard your corazón, your heart. And because you got to guard your heart, because that's where the issues of life come from. Joy, peace, strength, goodness, all come from the heart. The second thing you have to guard, and that's your healthy mind. Because without a healthy mindset, you will not create, inspire, and even want to work. So in the COVID-19 isolation or outside of isolation, please guard your heart, guard your mind. And if you do that, you're pretty hard to stop.
Will you talk a little bit about what practices and principles you have to implement that yourself?
I'm going to make this super deep. I like to listen to Stevie Wonder. He builds me up. If you watch my Insta story this morning, I was bebopping to other music. I love music. I'm moved by music. I love Marvin Gaye. I love Motown. I love music of today, and I'm friends with a lot of the people who do music of today. But I'm very moved by the 70s and the 80s because it was in my years of development. So I go back there a lot. I use music to build me because of my faith. I do a lot of studying of Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. It builds my faith, and starves my doubts. And then I hang out with very positive people. I have an unfair advantage on most people is that most of my friends are extremely positive, and most of them are very smart, like this whole panel here. So yes, that's how I stay up here.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday, or I guess it was Sunday, Mother's Day, I know you had a panel, and one of the people on that panel was Deepak Chopra, and he was talking about in this time of that we're in, that people are going almost through stages of grief. And he said the one stage that was super important that people get through to kind of transition through this whole process is the stage of meaning.
Yes.
So what would you say, what is your meaning that you're creating through this COVID-19 time? You have put yourself out there in amazing ways.
Well, number one, thank you for thinking that. I think that to me is that meaning to me goes back to creation and the fact that God created the heavens and the earth, and he created human beings. I'm into human beings. So even though I may have a certain philosophy or follow a certain religious teaching, or I might be a person that was raised, you know, in an African American environment, what I'm into is human beings. And so in a time where human beings are suffering, that's the thing that makes me rise up. So I think stages. Number one, you live your life. And out of living your life, fully present, fully feeling, fully alive, when you are full, you begin to overflow. See, I think too many people are giving just from their place of sacrifice and their place of, I'm giving because I have an empty tank and it's going to make me feel good. A lot of my giving comes out of my full tank. It really does. And if I feel like my tank is not full, I'm going to go find a place to fill it. So I'm into meaning, I'm into matter, I'm into purpose. And right now the world needs all of us to roll up our sleeves and help in our various ways. So in one way I am helping is in the area of helping with the prisons, COVID-19 hitting the prisons. I'm on Robert Downey Jr.'s board. He created something that we're doing called ARC and Prison Reform, now run by amazing people with my buddy Scott Budnick and also with Sam, who's running everything. So, you know, out of the fact that I care and then all you care, we step out and we extend our hands.
So I know you talked a little bit about how you fill yourself up with music, with scripture and your faith, but you talked about how else do you ensure that your tank is full?
Talking to you. I think we're just making it like too robotic.
Yeah.
Like I woke up today and the first thought out of my mind was not like, I feel so alive with the sound of music. No, I woke up and my body that's in my 50s said, ow. That was the first thing I thought. Ow. Okay. So then I decided to wash my face and brush my teeth. Usually I get to go right to the gym right from that, but now I can't. So I had some other things that I needed to do. Like I like to study and do devotions and I like to exercise. But I went from ow, and then I went to my music. It's an amazing thing. They got these things nowadays. I don't know if you guys have seen them. They're called phones. They play music. They play music and everything.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And if I don't go to that, I go to TED Talks, YouTube channels. I love to watch documentaries and interviews. So yeah, I'm not very robotic in this. And there seems to be a lot of people depending on me, but I don't really like go so deep in it. Like, ooh, they're depending on me. Come on, Tim, psych yourself up. No, I'm a human being, not a human doing. I'm a child of the Most High God, and I'm tapped into the source, and He flows through me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's, I think when people have even like I'm gonna say like a toolbox of things like, okay, if I'm noticing I'm not feeling the way I want to feel, I can go to these things and they can help bring me up. And you just listed off a ton of things that you do.
Yeah, but I don't mind the toolbox. Toolbox could be watching Brene Brown on YouTube. She's amazing. Mm-hmm. Reading a Brene Brown book. Some people exercise. Some people do yoga. Some people go do meditation. Some people listen to Joel Osteen in the morning. Some people do a lot of things. But don't be robotic in this. Be free-flowing. Little kids, when they wake up, they're looking for two things: give me sugar and give me cartoons. And the sugar's found in the cereal that these parents are in such a rush. They're like, here, little Kirsten, here, little Kylie, here's some cereal, and watch the TV while mommy gets dressed, okay? And so kids are just flowing. They're going with the flow, and then they get on the bus, or their parents drive them to school, and they yell at their friends when they get to school. We got to get back to a lot of that spontaneous lifestyle. So guys, I've been going at it already for 5.5 hours straight. My energy sure doesn't seem like that way, does it? In the last 5.5 hours, I'm working on gigantic books. I'm working on movies. I'm working on a play. We're doing a giant convention in Europe next year. Next month. We're doing another one in Africa next month. Hey, I'm not running out of juice because I'm fully alive.
Has it always been that way for you, Tim?
Well, there was one month. I would say I'm human. So there's times where things have happened to me that I created that were bad or that happened. So be it. There's times and seasons for everything. I don't pride myself on being like an inspirational talker. I'm a human being that's an artist who's creating, by the grace of God, some pretty good art. And yeah, so if I don't feel good, I might stay in. If I'm having a bad hair day, I may wear a hat. So depending.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I think it is that sometimes, especially with social media, is we see the highlight reels of everyone's lives. And sometimes people think like, am I the only one having a bad day or a bad hair day, or the only one that can't get to the hair person because we're locked down?
I am totally okay with being undone.
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld, you guys got to watch his new special on Netflix if you have not seen it. Because I'm a Seinfeld fan and I've seen him in person. And in fact, Seinfeld came to watch me speak, which was pretty cool. And he came with Tom Hanks. So that's even cooler. So I like Seinfeld. And he talks about how in your 50s, you don't care as much. In your 60s, you don't really care that much what people think. And your 70s, forget about it. So, and I'm going to try to tell you, because all of you look younger than the 50 mark, that I'm over 50. I'm over 50, and I'm good with it. And so I don't mind being slightly undone. I don't mind being slightly disheveled at times. I'm known for being a good dresser. I'm known for having some style. I'm known for being pretty doggone good on a stage. But if I have a semi-off day, whatever, doesn't throw me off at all.
Yeah, I think that definitely, I turned 50 this year, and it's definitely been like the caring what others think has exponentially dropped. And I saw some other heads shaking, and people are like, So I think it's a truth point. Talk about, you elaborate on speaking things into existence. I know it originates in Proverbs. Can you share your stories around that?
Yeah, I think that number one is that God gives us a revelation. And that revelation is a calling. So God gives the calling, but then you have to cooperate with the calling. And I speak this even to secular crowds, and they agree. So the revelation comes in your heart. It's like a calling. Your calling calls you. It could be for you guys that are watching, you care about pets. Your calling is to help pets, or your calling is to feed the poor, whatever your calling is. The calling comes, but then you have to cooperate. That's where a lot of people break down. They don't cooperate with the calling. The third thing is you have to build character. You're constantly building character to handle the calling. From the building of the character, then comes the courage. Oh, that's where I lose a lot of you guys. You got to have the courage to step out in the calling, because God will always call you to something that seems slightly out of grasp. You know, like Abraham, have a child. He's like, hey, I'm 90. Noah, build an ark. Haven't seen rain. So all of us that are watching today, you have a calling. You should cooperate with that calling. Life will build character for that calling. Many times it'll come through coaches that we don't like, instructors that we don't like, and sometimes even relatives we don't like. And then we need to have the courage to step out.
So what do you think is your big calling?
What's big and what's small? My calling is to be great to my 89-year-old mother. My calling is to be great to my 2 children who are not so small anymore. My calling is to show up on time for this amazing program you're having, which I did. What's big and what's small? I mean, I got a new deal with AMC Theaters. I got a new book with HarperCollins. I'm working on a $25 million play. I have 3 new TV shows coming out next year. Whatever. What's big and what's small? Big was seeing my mother the other day, but having to be 10 feet away from her. Right. That's how I see life. Totally. I'm not moved by what other people think is big.
Right. And that's, I guess more so is, what is it that, you know, you talked about having the courage to step into that next thing.
I think that the courage is built up. Some of you remember, how many of you remember going to a swimming pool, like at a high school that had 3 levels of diving boards, or at least 2? You all had to lift your hands, or you lived in neighborhoods that were not good. Okay, so number 1, you had the low dive, the middle dive, and the high dive. Here's how to build your courage. Do the low dive a lot. And you'll go like, look at me. I'm diving off the low dive. And then little Jenny will go, hey, Amber, we're going to try the mid dive. And now you get a little older and boom, 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 go up. And you guys jump off the mid dive. Then you see one of your little rascally friends has the audacity to go up on the high dive. And then you do that. That's what I do. So there's a lot of things I'm not that great at, but I'm getting better. Like I've been asked to act in several movies. So I'm looking for my acting book. I have an acting book around here. So I'm taking acting lessons, but I might end up being awful. But that's the low dive. I'm going to keep trying. Maybe get to the mid dive, and then I'll make sure and congratulate you guys when I hold up my Academy Award.
Yes, please do. Are there people that you look to for inspiration, or that you draw your inspiration from?
All of you. Leanne, I look to Betsy, Amanda, Valerie, and DMLYNN. Must be Lynn.
Dawn.
Yeah. I get inspired by the guy at Panera Bread. I get inspired by the guy at the gas station. There's a kid at this gas station I go to. He's an amazing artist. I get inspired by my friend Oprah Winfrey, getting to sit in her backyard and talk about life. I got inspired by people like Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, eating dinner once a month with Tony Curtis. I get inspired by a lot of types of people. Yeah, I get inspired by humans.
Beautiful. And I love that you make it such a point to not differentiate who others might think are big people and little people.
No, come on.
I know.
I mean, the thing is that I know some guys who deliver water that are happier than guys who are playing in the NBA making $9 million.
Right.
So, you know, I'd rather be like a farmer and super happy if that's my assignment than be the guy. But I definitely do want to do my assignment. And my assignment at this stage of my life is to influence people. So that's why that's working for me. But someday I might be a farmer. We'll see.
Well, in some ways you are, because you're farming people, right?
Okay.
You're growing people, so pouring into people and helping them grow. So maybe you are a farmer.
Okay, I'll take that.
You talk about pessimism canceling faith. And in this time where there's so much unknown, how would you suggest someone keep their faith?
Pessimism will at least alter your faith. And faith is a Greek word, pistis. It could be spelled Pistis, faith in God or spiritual things. The more you study on a certain subject, your faith can grow. So let's say if you fly a lot and you start to realize what these pilots have to do to really fly an airplane, it'll build your faith. Because you'll say, wow, they have to go through all these hours and they have to continue to train. So if you get on American Airlines, your faith is built. You don't need to go knock on the door and see if there's a gorilla in there flying the plane. Your faith is built, okay? If you find a dentist, if you're smart, you should at least Yelp them. Find out, like, could be 9 people in a row, like, they used a drill on me that was illegal. So what I do to build my faith is I try to become educated on the subject where I did not have faith. And so if you want to have faith in God, then build yourself by reading the Bible, and that's going to give you more faith in God. You want to have faith in getting into an airplane, then, you know, study what a pilot has to do in order to fly. So if I want to have faith on now stepping into the Broadway world and doing a $25 million play, it's taken me 4 years to build my faith to this level. I've already had somebody that said they give me all the money, but here's what the guy said. He's very famous. You guys know who he is. He goes, but Tim, but don't do anything dumb. Don't get in a deal with people, because I have famous people involved in this thing. So the reason I have not jumped into it, even though I have access to get into the money to do it, is because I'm still building my faith. Just because Cats worked forever, Les Miserables, Phantom of the Opera, there's so many other plays that don't work. For all you people that don't know this, I mean, I think the percentage is up to as high as 90% of Broadway plays don't work. So I'm going to do my research to see if I want to step out for real in that area of faith.
So can you tell us what the play is going to be about?
Yes, I'm doing a play on Michael, Gabriel, and Michael, Gabriel, and Lucifer before the fall of man. It's very Cirque du Soleil, and it's all how heaven was rhythmic, and it's out of this world. The music is out of this world. The famous musicians I have that have said they'll be a part is out of this world. You're going to feel the angels fly by. You're going to feel the wings, the energy. Yes, that's what that play's about. Angels.
And you wrote this?
I wrote about 70% of it.
Okay. How did you come up with this idea?
Sitting at home one day, ladies. No, I'm always like intrigued by things. So I started being in these conversations, and people from all walks of life and all these faiths kept talking about angels. And so it started out to make me think. Then I would start seeing like women were wearing angels, or people were really talking about angels. So I thought, let me start studying about how many people believe in angels. And it's most of the world from all faiths. And there's limited understanding on angels. And so I just decided to start seeing some shows, and how sometimes they would use something that looked angelic. Then I started getting costumes on angels with my partner who's helping me with this. And we would get costumes to look at what the angels would look like. And then it just started going wild. Then I went to probably one of the three most well-known artists in the world today. And they said, yes, I'm interested. Then I knew I was onto something.
It's beautiful. I love that you are able to see those signs of when something keeps showing up again and again, and that you're willing to trust it. I feel like sometimes I get like a kinesthetic feeling like I need to go talk to this person. And actually you were one of those when I first met you. And the first night when we chatted a bit, I didn't ask you. And then the next day I was like, well, I have nothing to lose. What can I, why not? And
tell them how nice I was. Tell all these ladies right here how nice
you
I was.
were amazing. You were amazing. So we met the first night at a reception where you spoke for a little bit up at Jason's place in, gosh, like up in Hermitage, way far away. And then the next day you spoke at the City Current event. And then he was doing photos and things after. And I went and I asked him, and I said, and I had just started my podcast. And I think at that point we had charted at 58 that day, which was pretty exciting for me for not really knowing what I was doing. And I said, hey, I don't know if this is possible, but what would it take for you to be on my podcast? And you said, it's not impossible. And you told me how to reach out, and I did. And Joseph was amazing.
Yes. So let me tell you,
Jim.
On that day, on a scale of 1 to 10, I felt a 3. So for about 6 months, I was dealing with something that I never even had heard of, ladies. Gut health. So for some reason, for a long time, I started getting dizzy. I was dizzy all the time. And I was losing my energy. And I was going to the gym, had a young little cocky trainer who pushed me too hard. And I was eating pretty good, going to the gym, in shape for a guy my age, and dizzy, tired, brain fog, didn't know what it was. When I went and spoke at that event that you're talking about, on a scale of 1 to 10, I felt a 3. In fact, I was so bad, but I never told anybody. This is the first time I've said that that's how I felt at that event. Even to get from the car to the place where I was going to go speak, I was completely dizzy. When I got up, I was completely dizzy. But never said I'm dizzy, was on my game, took pictures with 111 million people, kissed babies, and that's how I see it. Sometimes you got to play hurt and just keep quiet about it.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've mentioned that. Just because all the ladies here look so compassionate, I thought, let me share my I'm hurt story.
But I think it's important because there's always that decision is, do I allow my physical state to determine how I show up in any situation?
Come on. Every one of us is playing hurt. We're going through recovery and discovery at the same time. So it could be your hormonal It could be your hair's getting grayer and you don't know where to do it because the salons are closed. These are huge challenges, people. It could be you can't sleep at night. We're all going through something, recovery and discovery. And what I love about humans is how it's built in us to play hurt. We are resilient. I remember my mother, who's Spanish, a mixed heritage. My mother, who's Spanish, Vicentita Gonzalez is her name, if that's not Spanish enough. We were watching Telemundo, the news, and there was a picture of Britney Spears when her babies were smaller, and they had a picture, and watch, in the picture, she was almost dropping her baby. She was coming down a step and almost dropping her baby. And I said, Mom, look at that. Britney Spears almost dropped her baby. And my mom says, I used to drop you all the time. Betsy, I thought that was funny. Wave your hand if you think that was funny, Betsy.
That was good. That was good. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions for Tim? I want to respect your time, and you've been so generous with us. If there is,
I want to know what Amanda's eating. Amanda left, and she came back, and now she's eating things.
You can unmute yourself, Amanda, and tell him. She's at work. She had to go back to work.
Well, I'm at home, but I'm working from home. I'm eating Annie's bunnies.
Is it good?
It's very good. It's like goldfish, but better.
So Amanda, what do you think about what I'm saying when I'm talking about?
You are resonating.
Yeah, because listen, we all got faults, flaws, and failures. Big deal.
Absolutely.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Like I could pull it together pretty good, ladies. You know, I got to run with my little Beverly Hills crowd. But in the midst of that, sometimes I'm showing up hurt, not feeling good, and sometimes not even liking some of those people I got to hang around with. But we're all going through something. Isn't that true, Amanda?
That's very true. I agree. Absolutely agree.
So you got built up today? You learned a little bit?
I feel good about it. Yeah. We'll transfer some stuff I've jotted down into the journal.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you sharing with us, for sure.
What a privilege. Any other questions from any of the ladies on this amazing panel? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Lift your hands if you would like to say something.
So I have a question. I'm from a small town, and I'm pretty kind of from a very rural kind of family upbringing and country folk and that sort of thing. And so one of the things I've always kind of struggled with is this kind of abundance scarcity mindset. Like I have a growth mindset that's been innate in me, and I totally am vibing with the whole we're created to create. That's deeply resonant. But I usually am like, I'll go, and I'll like wanna, cause I'm an Enneagram 6. So I'm like, I'm gonna take forth, I'm gonna be loyal, I'm gonna learn this, I'm gonna grow. And then I hit a roadblock, and then I'm just like, no, I'm just like these people over here. I'll like, you know, and then I listen to the voice, you know, never amount to anything. And it feels like I'm always kind of the push-pull of the growth, like the scarcity and abundance mindset. And I feel like if I study sociology and all of that, like that's kind of also my background. And so I look at pockets of America, and if you look at certain pockets of America, especially where there's poverty and things like that, the mindset is very much in a scarcity mindset. But it's taken people to get out of that, but not everybody escapes, right? Not everybody gets out of it. And I almost feel like I am almost like between two worlds, always. Like I just go back to it. So what would you say to that? I don't even know if that's a real question.
No, it's a comment, but it's also a real question that I love. Now, let me tell you what I've found in traveling, because I've been to every state in America but 2. And I've been to 75 countries of the world. I believe that certain people, like in Kansas, are much more happy than some of my really wealthy friends in West Palm Beach. I'm convinced by it that they don't like traffic. They weren't built for all that traffic. They weren't built for all the noise. And so they have found a lifestyle where they feel like this is the lifestyle that I have. What I believe in is prospering where you're planted. So let's say if you live in Idaho, prosper in Idaho, small town in Wisconsin, prosper there. New York City, prosper there. But one person's way of prospering may not be another person's way of prospering. Like for you, do you have children?
No. Just dog.
Okay. So as she's frozen, can the rest of you guys hear me?
All right. My internet connection's unstable.
All right. So just mute yourself for a second. I'll answer the question. I think with Valerie is that if I was life coaching her, I want her to be uniquely Valerie. You've been born an original, don't die a copy. I don't want anything out of you to manifest that's not you. And so Valerie may quietly be an amazing writer. She may be a therapist someday. She may write a screenplay. She may just raise amazing kids, and that's an amazing life. So the key is to prosper where you are planted. And don't let this society put this undue pressure on all of us of what we're supposed to be achieving. I believe that this quote unquote achievement comes out of the harvest that you get from plowing the ground, planting the seed, watering the seed, then you reap a harvest. My goodness, that was amazing, Tim Storey. And that's why we're all applauding.
That was good. Very good. I got to wonder, Tim, do you think that the people that your friends in LA and Palm Beach and wherever, that part of why they appreciate you so much and why you are such a well sought out life coach to all kinds of celebrities and so forth is because you keep it so real?
Yes, that's the answer. No doubt about it. Because there's only two of us that are at this level. One is a psychiatrist. So he's dealing mainly with them on psychiatric problems and that. But in this, I would be the first guy. It's not by accident. If 7 sought my attention, then you know you're onto a good little business. When it gets into the hundreds, then you know you're onto something. When it's the hundreds worldwide, then you know you're really onto something. And part of it is my approach is this. You could see a person on TMZ and they'll look for me the next day and they'll want to talk about the dilemma and they'll say, now, Tim, you know what happened to me. I mean, you probably saw it. It's all over the news. And I'll say, you know, somebody told me you were a golfer. When did you start playing golf? And they'll go, when I was 9. Like, out of all the courses that you've been to, give me your 2 favorite courses. And I do this all the time. And after the session, many of these stars will go, what the heck did you do to me? All I know is I feel better. I said, because you came with this massive dilemma, okay, and you wanted to drop it on my table and you wanted me to solve it in an hour. It's not going to happen. This problem you created took you 26 years to create. So sometimes to untie a knot, look, you got to just take your time. I'm a master at untying knots. Now, don't ask me to cook. It's not going to be good. But I'm a master at untying a knot.
So I know you had a event scheduled in Nashville that got postponed due to
Yes.
things. Is that rescheduled?
Yeah, it's going to come up. That's with me and Coach Burt. Coach Burt is fantastic. He's my good friend. He's going to be on my Tim Storey Live, which is averaging about 150,000 people watching those on Sunday nights. So we will do that later this year. We're going to Nashville, Dallas, Atlanta, Los Angeles. And the whole idea is turning your setbacks to comebacks. So that's going to be good. I'd also, if you don't mind, me talking about something that I'm doing called the World Shakers Network every Monday night. I just dialogue with people. And I'm teaching on the 100 traits of the greats. So each Monday I take one of the traits. So good. And it's such a difficult price of $19.99 a month. How many can afford that? You better lift your hands, guys. Have some faith.
Right.
And so all my friends are like, why is it so inexpensive? Because I like humans. So I like dialogue. So, you know, it's going to be thousands of people. But on Zoom, you can now have thousands of people. I spoke to 9,300 people the other day on Zoom. So the World Shakers Network, just go to timstorey.com. It says everything there. You should invest in yourself. You're worth $19 a month.
And then how else can people keep in touch with you?
I think the best way is my Instagram. We seem to do a lot of posts on there. And that is Tim Storey Official, STOREY Official.
Perfect. And we'll make sure that we include the links for those when the podcast comes out. And then also when we pull this and put this into our Epic group as well. Tim, thank you so much for being here with us. I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking time. I don't take it lightly. I know that your time is busy, and I really appreciate it. And I trust that your words will inspire and impact many in our community as well as around the world, obviously.
It is a privilege, and I'm proud of you too. And keep hanging around that group.
I do.
All those ladies right there. And when I come into you guys' neck in the woods, one of you needs to bake me an apple pie. I like apple pie. Who do you think is going to be the best of making me the pie? Betsy's saying her.
Probably Betsy. We could have a pie bake-off. I could make a
Betsy.
decent apple pie, but
Betsy,
I'm
don't
betting
forget.
on Betsy.
I think Betsy's going to do it, but I like the apple pie bake-off idea. All right, you ladies are awesome.
Thanks so much, Tim.
Life
Enjoy.
is good.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.